September 20th, 2022. We have a quorum. We'll start with resolutions. RS 2022-1780 by Welsh, Syracuse, and Sledge declares the Metropolitan government's opposition to nuclear weapons and to urge the United States government to sign the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons and to take action to prevent nuclear war. Have a motion?
Move to indefinitely defer.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember?
I'm opposed to this resolution for two primary reasons. One, I oppose its aim. All NATO nations, with the exception of the Netherlands, are opposed to this treaty. With the war in Ukraine, this is not a time to take a stand in any way against NATO, and it's not our place to do so. If you feel strongly about this issue, just like with many other issues, then I would encourage you to contact your congressman, write a letter to the editor, write to the White House, but don't bring a resolution to Metro Council for something that we don't have any business involving ourselves in. Banning nuclear weapons sounds good, but it's not realistic in the world that we live in, and it hasn't been realistic since 1945. This resolution is dangerous, it's reckless, and it's out of place for this body, and I support the indefinite deferral.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm sorry, I should have called on the sponsor first. Councilmember.
Thank you, Chair. I brought this resolution because it was brought to me first by the group Veterans for Peace, because they had seen the dangers of all sorts of extremely volatile weapon systems on the ground, and they see what is happening in the world now, and how much we are on the brink given nuclear arsenals are building up all over the world, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening all over the world. The danger of nuclear annihilation the nuclear clock is about like 1 second away from nuclear annihilation. My brother was the commander of a nuclear sub in the United States Navy, and he told me about the pressure of being in that position, because he would be one who would be launching, should that come down the pike. He would be one who would be launching that nuclear weapon, and he never. The weight of that never left him, and he came to understand after years in the service why nuclear weapons should never be used and should never be an option. So that also played into my research and understanding of this this resolution. Right now, the United States spends $2 million every hour of every day building up and maintaining our nuclear arsenal. That's money that takes away from cities like ours and improving the quality and well-being of life here for people, things that are also very, very important to maintaining our, protecting ourselves. They are things that are public safety. They are things that we need. I think this is something we should consider, because I think nuclear weapons and the prospect and the shadow of nuclear war impacts us all. And should the worst happen, we will not feel those effects. After discussions with CM Rutherford, I would like to move for a 2-meeting deferral to talk to a couple other people that he suggested that I might talk to. But I do feel like this is something that's very important that cities like ours get on record saying we see the future of our city and our world as one that would be better without the specter of nuclear weapons and the impact that would have on our lives on the horizon.
Thank you, Councilmember. We have a motion on the floor to indefinitely defer that we'll need to dispose of before we take your deferral motion. Is there any further discussion?
I'm not sure that we should dispose of that motion necessarily, because I think if we indefinitely deferred it, it would allow for significant time to do further research and ultimately later down the road bringing it back if it was so the decision of the sponsor.
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean dispose of by getting rid of it. I meant act on. Also, an indefinite committee deferral over the objection of the sponsor would put it under a different rule that would cause it to come back at the end of a council member. It would need to come directly to the floor versus one that the sponsor is on board with. So I guess the question is the
That's
sponsor on board with?
Just for the remainder of the term though, right? It could come back in a new term, right?
It could come back this term, it would need to come back with a one-on-one debate at the end of a future council meeting, and that would be a discussion on whether to bring it back to committee.
I mean, it could come back under
Future
regular
discussion.
circumstances in a new term, right? Doesn't that cleans the slate?
It does.
We're less than a year from that, so
Yes.
that's my thinking.
Okay. I guess my
Unless
question
the-
is whether the sponsor is on board with an indefinite deferral.
And that I do maintain my right then to bring this up again in this term.
Yes.
Yes, then I could support an indefinite deferral for now.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on council member?
I would just implore the sponsor not to bring it back, period. As a Navy veteran, served at the Fleet Combat Training Center, Atlantic Dam Neck, Virginia Beach, Virginia, with TAC Traegerland. There's such a huge joint chain of command, and it's such a plethora of intelligence that here on the local level, we never even see it. Even enlisted in the military don't have access to certain intel without the proper security clearances. I understand the intent, but it's not for this body to be having conversations about national defense. So I think if the sponsor really feels strong about national defense, there's other avenues that she should pursue. But utilizing this body for that is way out of bounds. And that's what I say to that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, council member.
Yeah, thank you too for your service, Councilman.
Thank you both. Any further discussion? Okay, we are on the motion to defer indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're on to RS 2022-1781 by Murphy and Van Rees. This honors the life of Davidson County Circuit Court Judge Philip E. Smith. We have a letter to approve. Any discussion? Let's have a motion, please.
Motion.
Move.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. In fact, I think that we can, if it's okay with everybody, we'll do RS 2022-1782, 83, and 85 together, unless anybody would like to speak on any of them. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was saying we're gonna do yours and the other two together, if that's okay, unless you wanna speak on it.
Okay, now there's one with the rule.
No,
Okay.
this
not
isn't that.
Okay.
Okay. RS 2022-1782 by Hurt recognized the retirement of Davidson County Division 6 Judge Michael F. Mondelli. RS 2022-1783 by Van Rees, Younghauser, and others supports joining the AARP network of age-friendly communities to further livability in Nashville and Davidson County. RS 2022-1785 by Sepulveda, Stiles, Toombs, and others recognizes September 15th through October 15th, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Nashville and Davidson County. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're on to RS 2022-1784 by Sledge. Recognizes the 20th anniversary of Conexión Americas. There actually isn't an amendment on that one. We have a letter to approve on that. A motion, please.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? On to late items.
Chair, I like how you run this show.
Thank you. I like how you ran it too. Gamble and Johnston aren't, no, we're not doing this.
I believe, stand to be corrected, Ms. Zeitlin, but I believe at the committees yesterday, Councilmember Gamble did withdraw the later.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I was there.
Then we're on late amendment. We're an O'Connell short. Would somebody, we'll move on to elections and confirmations and thank you. Hannah.
Freddie's not ready for us.
Freddie. We're ready for Freddie. Elections and confirmations. Auditorium Commission appointment of Ms. Juanita Trauber for a term expiring June 30th, 2025. Ms. Trauber? Hi, is Trauber correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit why you'd like to serve on the commission?
Sure. My name is Juanita Trauber. I currently work as Communications Director at University School of Nashville. Have prior public relations experience, but started my career as a reporter, covering mostly consumer business and some higher education. I have had multiple rodeos with Metro Council and the auditorium, most recently through my role at MDHA, where I was Assistant Director of Communications. So I'm familiar with the history of the auditorium and how it came about with the Baiji Theater that was demolished as a part of urban renewal under MDHA to make way for what is now the Municipal Auditorium. And the way that the auditorium has evolved over the years to provide entertainment and private event opportunities for the Nashville community. So I believe that through my background in public relations and communications that I can provide knowledge and expertise to help advise the team running the auditorium. I also come from, my husband and I both come from a line of public servants, and I see this as a small way for me to serve the community that has given so much to me.
Right. Thank
This
you.
is a large way. This is a volunteer role. Your time is huge, and we appreciate you being here, Juanita.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? Motion to approve?
Move for approval?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, recommend approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Hospital Authority Board appointment of Dr. Andrea A. Birch for a term expiring July 1st, 2027. Dr. Birch? Hi.
Hi,
Would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about it?
of course. My name is Andrea Birch. I'll say that very first, I'm a unicorn, as I'm called. I'm a native Nashvilleian. Born and raised here. Went to medical school here at Meharry. I've been back in Nashville now for about 20 years or so. I'm a radiologist. Also, more specifically, a breast imager. I have found that my passion is really centered on patient care and access to patient care, and also developing young radiologists to come behind me to take care of me and everybody else as I at some point move into retirement. But what I really want to say is that I want to serve. I remember when General Hospital, where it stands now, was erected. And I believe in the mission of trying to make sure that patients get the best health outcomes that they can. So I want to see General Hospital thrive. I want to see the patients that it serves do well. I want the community that it serves to feel empowered by having such a hospital there to serve them. So that's why I'm here.
Yes, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question that I think would be right in your wheelhouse with your work as a radiologist. So I was the Public Health and Safety Committee Chair until we just rolled off, and one of the things that always disturbed me about Metro Hospital is that women, unless something has changed dramatically, do not have access to 3D mammography there in the hospital. And that just seems like such a way to kind of, bring up the equity element with patients that are served there. And I never got to explore it because there were other competing priorities And it just seems like such a lost opportunity for, you know, the community to rally around related to the hospital. And so I'm not looking for an answer or anything. I'm looking more for, maybe that's something that you could champion as part of your work on the authority.
So, so let me answer, or just give you some context for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they do have 3D mammography. That's something that, to my knowledge, has been instituted at that institution. But what they don't have related to breast imaging and breast health is the ACR has a tract for a breast imaging center of excellence. And with that comes some carrots, if you will, for patients to let them know that this facility meets the requirements for delivery of excellent imaging care. So if you look at Nashville, what you'll find is that there are certain zip codes that don't have breast imaging centers of excellence in their zip code. General sits right in 37208, but it is not a breast center of excellence as awarded by the ACR based on criteria that have to be met. So there are a lot of things that I see as a radiologist. You know, you would think that I don't see disparities as a radiologist, but that's actually just far from being true. From just in breast imaging, I can list tons of things that we're falling short in closing gaps that really need to be closed.
Thank you for educating me on that, because it's been a while since I had, you know, had any conversations. I'm really glad to hear that that's available now, and it sounds like there's still great opportunity for you to have a huge impact.
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for sure for improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Yes, thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I was not going to say anything, but I was sitting here with so much pride. I feel like the officer and a gentleman, because I was working at Meharry when Dr. Birch was in medical school, and just to hear her pontificate as she has on the expertise that she learned at Meharry Medical College has just makes me feel wonderful, and that the work that I did to help keep things going in the departments that I worked in paid off, and just makes me proud.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilmember?
And Chair, I want to add to Nashville General, they do breast awareness, breast screening campaigns for women, and they also do prostate screenings campaigns for males too. So just wanted to put that out there, that they are in that space and offering those resources to the community.
And they're free.
Yep, and they're free.
Critical preventative care. That's great. Any other discussion? All right. Motion, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Hospital Authority appointment of Dr. Robert F. Miller for a term expiring September 6, 2025. Dr. Miller. Hi. Would you mind introducing yourself and talking a bit, please?
So I'm Bob Miller. I'm a pulmonary physician at Vanderbilt. I've been practicing in Nashville since the late 1980s. I did most of my training at Vanderbilt with some in Seattle. During my training, I was chief resident at Nashville General in 1987, so that would have been on Hermitage Avenue. And really enjoyed my experience in that part of town serving an underserved community. It was always my dream to come back and help Nashville General in some way down the road. I've been at Vanderbilt now since 2001 and have been doing mostly pulmonary medicine, but I have been one of the medical directors for the Shade Tree Clinic, a free clinic run by Vanderbilt medical students and volunteer faculty that serves a large panel of uninsured patients. And so I have a real commitment to underserved communities in Nashville, or underserved populations in Nashville, and know some about a lot of the barriers of care to underserved communities in Nashville. And I believe that keeping a vibrant city hospital is part of that commitment to the underserved.
Thank you. Any questions? Run through all the general stuff already. All right. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. And there are some blue parking passes there next to Councilmember Vercher for y'all. Go back to a late amendment to BL 2022-1383 from Councilmember O'Connell. It is on an ordinance to amend Title 10 of the Metro Code to prohibit smoking and the use of vapor products in certain age-restricted venues. Councilmember, what ended up happening in public safety?
It was approved 4-2-2, but we expect objections on the floor, so that'll be fun.
Okay, what happened to the bill as a whole?
The bill as a whole got approved as amended.
Got it. Okay. 422. Okay. Would you like to speak to the emergency nature?
Yes. We tried to timely file a version of this amendment and were advised that we did not have enough guidance under state law to be able to accept the amendment as filed. We got updated guidance from Metro Legal, but the filing deadline had passed, and so we had a timely filed amendment that would have been much broader in scope. I don't intend to run that, but it was really the only way to keep a class of business viable under the blanket prohibition of the bill as filed. This is the narrower approach. I'd prefer to run it and hope that colleagues will not object to the late file.
Any concerns with the late file?
Can you speak to the amendment?
The amendment itself tries to keep open. So the bill as filed applies to all smoking and vaping regardless of the nature of the underlying whatever is being smoked or vaped. We have a new class of business, including one in District 19, that allows for on-table vaping of cannabinoids, which is again duly available under state law, and the blanket prohibition of the bill as filed, even though it is like a cigar bar or like another establishment where the entire point of going would be this experience, the bill as filed would prevent them from operating with that category. So this amendment offers a carve-out that does not allow vaping of tobacco. It defines vapor bar very narrowly to allow this specific type of use and would allow the business to keep operating.
Any concerns with the late file?
No.
Great, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to a proposed rule change from Councilmember Hurt, a proposed amendment to Rule 6 of the Metro Council Rules of Procedure. This would add a line to the section about quorum to say that if a committee lacks a quorum, a council member at large may join that committee as a voting member in order to meet the quorum. If a chair or vice chair is not present at a committee, a council member at large may act as the chair of the committee. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you very much. First of all, this legislation was created because of the lack of a quorum. And that quorum oftentimes comes because of overlapping or extended meetings in other committees. Excuse me. In fact, I have some statistics for you. At-large members average attendance is 77.5%, and the median attendance is 84%. For district members, the average attendance is 68%, and the median attendance is 73%. Overall, the average attendance is 69%, and the median attendance is 77%. So at-large members, on an average, attend meetings more than the overall council does as a whole, and especially for those district council meetings. Members who often are chairs of committees. So just looking at that is one of the other things that made me want to present this legislation. Secondly, we're always going against the state, going against the grain of the state. But this change actually aligns us with the state and what they're doing. That they already allows the speaker and or the speaker pro tem to vote in committees. So I think that this is something that we wouldn't have to fight them for, or if they would see something that they want to veto or preempt us on it. It's something that we're already aligned with them. And the third thing is that this meeting itself today started about 5 minutes late because there was not a quorum. And I actually came in here 3 minutes before the meeting began, and had this rule been in place, the meeting could have already begun, and members could have come in and carried on in a timely manner. Just for the sake of running and operating efficiently is the reason why we want to have this legislation approved.
Thank you, Councilmember. Discussion?
It sounds to me like this would eliminate Ms. Zeitlin from having to go and pull people out of other committees.
And it most certainly
And
would.
I support that.
Although she does it just readily and very excitedly to help us.
Thank you.
I just want clarity, the state doesn't preempt us on our own rules of procedure.
Well,
correct?
And the speaker or pro tem can sit in to break
Yeah.
a tie
Okay.
in a committee. Yeah. Any other discussion?
I found the numbers interesting, but I wanted to throw out there that I have a 100% attendance rating, so I think I am pulling up everyone else that you had referred to in those numbers, so
Yes.
I just wanted to put that
I
out
would
there.
say so.
That's because you were in what year? We all had 100% attendance at some point.
Would you mind saying again what the medians are for district council members and members at large?
Yes, I sure can. So the average attendance for at-large members is 77.5%. The median attendance is 84%. The district members' average attendance is 68%, and the median attendance is 73%. For all council members, the average attendance is 69%, and the median attendance is 77%. So if you look at the at-large members and the overall, then you can see the increase in those numbers from district is because of the at-large members.
Got it. Okay. You won't be surprised that I have thoughts. First, I would say it's more important to look at the median because there are definitely some members that are dragging down the percentage significantly. So I appreciate you restating what the medians were and having that in addition to just the average. I agree that it's a little Keystone Cops to be running around looking for quorums a lot. We usually end up achieving it. Do you know how many meetings have been canceled for lack of a quorum this term?
This term, now we had quite a few during COVID, when we were meeting at the Music City Center.
Yes.
But I don't know if we
In the
have
last
any
year or
numbers.
so.
Right.
I had one.
I know that there's been one this year in 2023, at least one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had 2 or 3 when I chaired the old personnel committee.
Was that here?
Yeah, here, in-person meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds very rare that we're actually canceling a meeting. I have concerns with introducing somebody to the committee and what could be mid-discussion on an important topic who necessarily hasn't taken part in it. I think the best solution is for members who habitually don't come to committee to no longer be on those committees, and that would solve our problem. I think that's the best solution, which the vice mayor can do anytime.
Well, people may have some illnesses that may have been extended or extensive that has prevented them from being able to come to meetings. So I don't think that there necessarily should be any punishment for people not showing up, but this just provides an alternative for the efficiency of the committees to operate. And it presents no harm. It's all good.
I mean, the 8-point difference between the average and the median means that there are some people who have very low attendance rates, and just because somebody is removed from a committee because they're going to be out for a few months for illness doesn't mean that they couldn't be added back onto the committee afterward. I guess my main question is, why wouldn't we just select whatever council members have the highest attendance rate instead of the at-large members?
Excuse me?
Why wouldn't we select the council members with the highest attendance rates instead of the at-large members?
Simply because the reason you have at-large members to be able to help carry out some of the responsibilities that the district council members are unable to complete. So I think that since that is already in place, and you don't have to go out and reach, and then you don't want to choose one against the other, because as Councilmember Virtue alluded to, at some point, all of us have probably had a 100% attendance rate. So as opposed to going to those and who's going to do it and who's not going to do it, you utilize the existing at-large members to be able to do so, considering that they all ran countywide and therefore they have received votes in all 35 districts for them to be where they are.
Sometimes a very low percentage in those districts. And you and Councilman Memenes may be the only ones who achieved a majority.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This doesn't state it here, but I think it also might be worth discussing, having it be the chair's discretion whether to wait a few minutes for quorum versus pulling in an at-large member to get the committee going. Because oftentimes we do make up a quorum within 5 or 10 minutes, but there are times when it's really tough. And so I think if the chair had that discretion, then that might be more palatable for the members at large to accept it.
That's a good point. We could have had a situation today where Councilmember Hurt stepped in because Councilmember Evans was still in public safety. We were halfway through the discussion on non-proliferation. Then Councilmember Evans comes in, so you would have to leave the committee. But Councilmember Evans missed the first half of the discussion because we went ahead and started. We always have people coming in and out. That's not a unique situation to this.
Yeah.
And if a chair or vice chair is not present at a committee meeting, a council member at large may act as the chair of the committee. This doesn't say that there had to be a quorum lacking. So if you have 6 members present, but the chair or vice chair is not present, then the council member at large would come in and run the committee. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the rule currently if there's not a chair or vice chair? Isn't it just somebody else on the committee takes over?
Darby?
There's a Robert's Rules of Order on this provision where the committee, somebody from the committee would call the meeting to order, and then the first order of business would be to elect a chair pro tem for the meeting.
So this gives you your automatic pro tem.
I think this gives us a little more flexibility, and I know when we didn't have a quorum in public health and safety, it was kind of a pain because we actually had a lot of legislation to consider, but I think that was one of the days that one of our at-large members was just walking down the hall, and it would have been nice to pull somebody off, so I think it'd be helpful. We can try it, we don't have that much longer left, and see how it goes. And
That's true, we could always change it.
I guess I don't understand the resistance of it. I don't.
Because even for me, part of it is ad hoc, adding a member of the committee just because people didn't come when there is already a solution available to the vice mayor. The other thing is that even though we're all elected in different ways and maybe see ourselves with different job descriptions, once we step into the chamber, we each have one vote. And the idea of elevating council members over other council members in the chamber just doesn't feel very egalitarian to me.
I don't think it's elevating any council member over other. It's basically just filling in committees in order for the committee meeting to.
It's giving you more voting rights by giving each at-large member the right to go sit in and vote in additional committees. Not frequently.
Only in
I
limited,
agree.
yeah,
In limited circumstances, but those are where my
But it's not going to be any
concerns
more
come from.
votes than what the committee has. You know, because the at-large member would be a replacement. So if you got 5 members and that makes up the quorum and the at-large member is there, if the other member comes, then the at-large member would step aside when it comes to the vote. So it's not in addition to, but in replacement of.
Yeah. And if we've lost 1 to 3 committees, it's okay. But anyway, I'll shut up. Councilmember.
I just wanted to go back to the comment you were making about the vice mayor being able to pull people off committees. At that point, really, the chair should be talking to the vice mayor and elevating that, and I think most everybody knows how to do it. And so if it's a consistent problem, then I would see where that's the chair's responsibility to take care of that issue. But, so I support the rule change.
Any other discussion?
I think it warrants discussion by the full body.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1. Passes 3-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.